Hey, this is Jason Blummer, and we want to thank our sponsor, Bill.com, a platform we've been using for many years to run our firm's own virtual AP and AR experience for our clients, too. And as is common with Bill.com, they've raised the bar on AP innovation again, and they have a new AI-enabled platform. It offers a sweet new user experience. You'll see it's redesigned, easier to find buttons, more compact. And of course, they got international payments. We love Bill.com. Bill.com, thanks for sponsoring the Thrivecast. Hey, everybody. Jason Blummer here with the Thrivecast, and I want to welcome you to our 11th season. This is going to be so exciting. The things that are coming up, we are pumped about all the new, fresh content we're going to be bringing you, and it is going to be an exciting journey. We're going to bring back some guests that are going to really help us understand this profession, understand the accounting world, business in general. We're going to be talking about all kind of great things. So thank you so much for joining us in our exciting 11th season. And I have a really just an amazing guest. I'm so excited to talk to this guest. His name is Greg, not that Greg. It's a different Greg. So I want to introduce him real quick before we bring him on. It is Greg Lafollette. And of course, if you've been in the accounting profession at all and you're not living under a rock, then you know who Greg Lafollette is. So his bio is really too long to read because he does so much. But now he is a consultant speaker and he's an extreme expert in the areas of technology. And a lot of people don't know this. He has been webcasting, podcasting since the early 2000s when it actually didn't work well. And he's the reason I podcast now. And I have two podcasts, actually. And so we're now in our 11th year in the Thrivecast, and this is all due to our guest, Greg Lafollette. So that's why I'm pumped. Another reason I'm very excited to bring Greg onto the show is that he was our first guest on the Thrivecast. Actually, August 2011, we recorded our first guest podcast with Greg Lafollette. And of course, I had to have him on then because he was just the one who led the way in podcasting, and I knew I wanted to do it. Here we are, going into our 11th year because of our guest. So it's so exciting. Right now, so really, Greg Lafollette is a consultant, but he was most recently the VP of Product Strategy with CPA.com, which is a subsidiary of AI CPA. A lot of you know that. And though Greg's retired really in January 2014, he still does special projects, reports right up to Barry Melanson, CEO of AI CPA, and Eric at CPA.com as a strategic advisor. So I want to welcome Greg Lafollette to the show. Greg, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Hey, thank you, Jason. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's fun. I just realized how old I was as you were doing that.
Well, I think you're wise. Isn't that how we say it? You're wise.
Wizened.
Right. You're whizzing. That's what you are. So, Greg, did I get all of that right? You're officially retired, but you do special projects with AI CPA and CPA.com right now.
I'm a strategic advisor and report to Eric Askerson, who's the CEO of CPA.com.
Very cool. Okay. So, Greg, we want to walk down memory lane, but I really want your opinions during this show on the profession, technology. We're going to get into all kind of things. This is going to be a comfortable chat show, so you kind of get to take it where you want to take it to, but I'll lead us with some questions, and I'm really, really, really excited. So real quick, for people who don't know as much about you, tell us really quick, your involvement in the profession. You ran a firm, so kind of how long that goes back.
Oh, golly, way back to the early 70s when I first started practicing. I joined a large regional firm. A couple of my partners and I left that regional firm, formed our own firm, practiced for 20 years with them. We're still good friends. The firm's still here. They're doing great. A couple of new partners in and a couple of partners out. So I left practice in the late 90s and went to work for a company called Creative Solutions, now part of Thomson Reuters.
Yep, I remember
And
them.
so I made up a title there. I was vice president of product strategy, and I'm sticking with that title because I didn't have a better one when I went to work for Eric. I worked for Thomson until one day they offered me a retirement buyout, which was pretty attractive. So I took that, and I went off and ran one of the trade magazines, then called the CPA Software News.
Yeah.
I changed the name to technology rather than software, and advisor rather than news. And so we had the CPA Technology Advisor, and I ran that for 7-8 years, I guess, until I recruited my friend Darren Root to take over the magazine. He changed the name to the CPA Practice Advisor. When we started that, we were book number 8 in an 8-book market, and it's now book number 2 in a 2-book market. So they've done really well, and Gil Perry is over there running that organization. They do great, and I did all of the time. I worked for the magazine. I did consulting, and I did almost exclusively consulted to technology companies who were seeking to serve the profession.
Yeah.
And I kind of described what I wanted to do, at least in my mind. I wanted to represent the profession to the company, and the company to the profession.
Nice.
Because I don't know, it's a secret, but those guys don't talk to each other.
That's right. That's right. And it's
really
really
as much as
and it's really
that's what I've been doing for 20 years.
Okay, and it is really important that those software providers do actually know the needs of the profession and actually try to, instead of only building software, they do need to understand what are the needs of firm owners. And a lot of times they struggle to know those things. So it's nice to have a liaison. That's something we do with them a lot, to kind of help them understand what does a profession need. And of course, they look to us a lot of times to say, can you speak to your profession in a way that they'll understand what our technology does? And it can be very confusing.
Yeah. And the problem on the vendor side is they do an excellent job of listening to their customers. And I'd go in and sit down with a vendor and say, you need to do A, B, and C. And they'd say, well, our customers don't tell us we need to do A, B, and C. And I go, well, there's a 500,000 people out there, and you're serving 8,000 of them, and you're talking to those. I don't want to talk to the 490,000 that don't use your product to find out what they want.
Right.
So you've got to do that, and you have done. You've become one of the people, Jason, that is a translator, because a lot of times, that your members and people will come to you and say, "Boy, Jason, I wish fill in the blank. I wish QuickBooks would do this."
Yeah.
And you say, they do that. They've done that for years.
Yeah. Well, and it's and it's hard, Greg. You know this. There's probably and this is something my partner and I, Julie, always try to balance, is that we want to be consultants to the profession, and we do that through Thriveal, but we want to run a firm too, because we want to be those consultants that are actually going through the hiring, the firing, the growth, the client growth, the niching, and that's a hard balance. So, is it true that our profession has a lot of consultants to the profession that may not have ever run a firm or don't now? And does that hurt our profession to listen to that, or it's probably somewhat helpful, I imagine?
Yeah, I tend to value consultants who have practiced, who are still or are still practicing.
For sure.
That's not to say that I don't not value others, but to me it's pretty impressive when you look at somebody who's running a firm. You look at Jason, what you're doing with the Thriveal Group. You look at what Darren Root does with RootWorks. What Gary Boomer does. These guys are CPAs. They've practiced. They've been there. They've done it, and they are still doing it. So I feel your pain.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it's really the entrepreneurial bug, right? That is sometimes a sickness that people get attacked with. And so we're running multiple companies, and it is a lot of work to do, but it really brings us a lot of insights into what our members are going through. So, I think it's the right way to do it. And it is the way we want to care for people and lead them and help coach them through growth properly.
Right. When I talk to my friends who are the consultants and they're running their consulting business, their practice, they're involved in a couple of software companies, they're doing all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it is quote a lot of work,
Yeah.
but they don't know it's work because
Right.
their hobby is technology, and they don't know whether they're working or playing at any given point in time.
That's right. Yeah. And Darren Root is one of the worst. He is an entrepreneur and he will start a company all the time. He's built software companies, CPA firms, magazines. I mean, this guy has done it all, which is amazing, really.
Yeah, he really has. And years ago when I was running the magazine, and it took me 3 or 4 years to convince Darren that he wanted to run a magazine, and another couple of years to convince him that he wanted to run the magazine that I was running, so I could go away and do other things. And,
well, you
course,
did.
What he did was took an average product and made it into an excellent product. And then I got to look back and say, geez, he did that way better than I did.
Well, that's how that works. You want to find a successor who's better than you. So Greg, I want to ask you some questions about technology. It is true, and people don't know this. I listened to your podcast 12, 13 years ago, whatever, when podcasting was not a thing, which is blowing my mind now because podcasting is the thing now. And people are there are hundreds of new entrants into the podcasting space. Of course, we get to claim we've been over a decade podcasting directly. Did you think it would be that big? Or, I mean, why did you do that? Did you just want to talk to people? What was your motivation?
Got to tell you a story about that.
Okay.
First, when we started, we did. I launched the first blog, I guess, called the Tech Gap. Back in 2000, I guess, or 2001, something like that.
Yeah.
And later on, I started looking around, and said, everybody's doing that, and and I don't need to do that. I wanted to lead. I didn't want to continue.
Nice.
So. One day I was speaking at a conference, and after my session, I stood around, and you've spoken at enough conferences, you know how this works. People come up to you and they ask questions. And so you've got a line of people, and if you're really good, if you're lucky, you've got 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 people, and they're all standing there asking you questions. And sometimes you got to cut them off because you got to go somewhere else to do another presentation.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part. Yes. So I'm there and I'm talking to all these people, and I answer the 5 or 6 or 7 questions, and there's still a couple of people there. And so I look at somebody and I say, "So did you have a question?" And they go, "No, I was just listening."
Okay.
And I came out of that room. I remember this. It was something. It was one of the same hotels in Las Vegas. I came out of the room. I bumped into my buddy Randy Johnston, and I said, "Randy." Told him what had just happened. He said, "Yeah, it happens all the time." And I said, people want to sit and listen to us talk.
Which is hard.
I don't know why, but they just want to sit to listen to us talk. So we chatted a little bit, and I said, "We're going to do something." So I did a little research, figured out there was an early entrant in the podcasting world called TalkShoe, which basically allowed me to call a number that was a recording number, and Randy would call the same number and invited Doug Sleater, and he'd call in, and we'd talk for an hour or so, and they'd record it, and the recording quality was horrible. And then we figured out a way to send that up to the podcast services and things, and do it, and people started listening, and we were we were pretty amazed. After the first year, we're getting, you could never, early on, you could never measure how many listens you got.
No, yeah.
You'd look at it and say, wow, we had 3,000 downloads of this. And I'd go, that's incredible. My mother was probably 800 of them.
I know.
And you have no idea if people just download them automatically and never listened.
Yeah.
But, right. And we just kept doing it. And, and then kind of specialized. We do one on this and one on this. And we called it Tech to Go. And we did it until everybody else started doing it. And then we said, we don't need to do this anymore, because you know what? Jason's going to do this. He's going to do great.
Man.
And we had fun. Now he can come in and do the work part.
That's cool. Well, that's how you move through your career, right? You retire and you get people that are smarter than you, maybe that have learned from you. But it's so cool to talk to you. Like here in our 11th year, and we're now in a studio doing a video cast, because we've always done an audio cast, because podcasts generally are audio. And now here we are moving into this new era, and we want video, of course, to be a big part of it. And you laid the groundwork, for the profession, which makes me want to ask you, you like to say, and a lot of people say this, that, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I think some of those mindsets are things we work through with a lot of firm owners, younger firm owners particularly, where they're trying to get, reach that pinnacle, sell their firm in 5 years so they can say, I built a cloud firm and sold it. And here we've been, running a firm for 20 years through all the major ups and downs. And so we tell people, get in this profession and stay in it. Do it forever, because, man, you get better and better. Is that your advice? Or would you say, well, if you build something awesome in 5 years, sell it, see what happens, and go do something different? I mean, what's your view on that?
I love public accounting. So I don't know why, if your exit strategy is to make a bunch of money and go live on a boat, that's fine. Yeah. But I mean, if you want to practice, you're gonna go through some processes, and when I say it's a marathon, not a sprint, is right now we're going, wow, if I could just get all of my clients on, if I could just move to a subscription model and have advisory services for all of my clients, then I'd be there. No, you wouldn't. There would just be another hurdle, another thing. And that's what makes the profession fun. When firms go through stages, Jason. I say 4 stages. Number 1, when you start your firm, your first rule is we take all clients.
Yep, for sure. Okay?
And then second phase, in most firms get to this really quickly. Second phase is we only take clients that pay. Okay?
That's a good change.
Get to that one pretty quickly. Then after a while, and it could be a year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. At some point, people start to get to the point where they only take compliant clients. Because there's only so many times you can dig some idiot out of a sales tax problem or something, and
That's right.
After you do what they tell you, and pretty soon just go, what, life's too short.
Right.
So now I just take compliant clients, and then ultimately you get to the end where the golden, where the brass ring is, and that's I only work for people that I like.
Yeah.
So now,
nice.
Now I'm serving my friends. My clients are my friends.
I love it.
And I care about them on a, personally. As a profession, I always care about all of my clients, whether or not they're making, stuff like that. But you get to that 4th level, and then you're there.
Yeah.
But the technology changes and technology challenges, Jason, they're not good. There's always going to be another one.
Oh yeah. And even now, you probably know this, there's so many products that flood the market, right? Like if you want a workflow CRM product, you've got to look through 30 different accounting niched workflow CRM products to pick the right one. And this stuff confuses the heck out of firm owners. They're like, I don't know what the heck to do, but they also view technology as this this master solver of all their problems. And what they don't understand, I think a lot of times, is that a firm is a very intimate, human-centered model. It is a leadership of people, a leadership of clients. And of course, if you love them and you care about those clients and your team, you can lead them better. And software those are tools, and they're amazing. They're so much better now than they've ever been. But what would you say to people that go, if I can just get this software product, my firm's finally going to be where it needs to be? Is some of that true, or?
No, it's not true at all. It's not true at all. And this is part of a cycle. We've been here before.
Yeah.
When I'll go back to the late '90s, even mid '90s, there were literally hundreds of tax preparation products on the market. Hundreds.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
were
know
all
that.
over. When I went to work for Thompson, and my friends over at CCH, Kevin Robert and his group over there, they were doing the same thing. And in the 8 years that I was at Thompson, we did 9 acquisitions, and CCH did about the same, maybe more. We used to meet each other, walking in and out of the door of potential companies we were going to buy. And and we went from all of those tax prep products, to just a few, half dozen. Well, we used to have what I referred to as best of breed. You could get the very best depreciation product, the very best tax product, the very best, time and billing product, whatever it was, and you'd pull all these things, and you'd get the best of breed. And we'd sit around and bitch that they didn't talk to each other.
You're right.
But then Thompson and CCH came around, and they built suites, and they put them all together so that they talked to each other. And then I heard firms say, well, I'm a CCH shop, and I don't like their depreciation product, but it's integrated. So, so I'm going to use it. So we went from best of breed to the suite model. Yeah. So what I call good enough.
Yeah.
It was good enough, and it was my suite. And
put up with it.
Then all of a sudden we started doing things in the cloud, and you got all of these different products, and they're great.
They're integrated.
Except they don't talk to each other.
Right.
Well, they say they talk to each other.
That's right. Yeah.
It takes a mechanic to keep. It's like when you got your first Model A, you had to be a shade-free mechanic. Right. Eventually, we'll get to where we are with cars now. You don't have to be a mechanic; you just get in and drive.
Right.
And you got these amazing places, a bot keeper and things like that that do all these things, but they're still under the hood. They still got to hook these things together.
Yeah, they do.
And that's so it's the job of the accountant now to figure out which of the best of breed is going to work for this particular client.
Yeah.
And the big question is, do I modify my tech stack for a particular client because it's best for him, or do I shoehorn a client into my tech stack because it's best for me? Right. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Well, and that's each firm will start to make those decisions for themselves. And a lot of that changes depending on the niche possibly that you're serving in, that you're and the advisory perspective you have. Because a lot of times as advisors, we get to tell people this is how you're going to work with our firm because we're going to advise you and it's time for you to listen to us and we'll lead, which is what advisory, type models do. I guess it just depends on, the different firm and what they want to be. But I want to ask you about the profession. I mean, you've said that, going all the way back, first it was service bureaus, then mini computers, and then I came along with these microcomputers, PCs and Macs, then DOS to Windows. I did all that, went through the cloud. Now, of course, we're moving from compliance to advisory. Is there always going to be a cycle in our profession? And do you know what's next?
Right. We alluded to that a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Those are just another part of the jump.
Yeah.
I remember when we decided we were going to move from floppy disks to CDs.
Yeah, man.
As we send out software. Well, and then all of a sudden now, we don't even put DVD slots in computers anymore. No reason to do. So there's
Yeah.
always a technology
Yeah.
change that's going along, and and there's always a challenge, and there's always a trying to figure out when the profession is going to move, and the
Mm.
profession is not a monolith. They don't all move together.
Right.
You
Right.
have some people. Jeffrey Moore does the adoption curve,
Right. Yeah.
and we have the early adopters and the laggards and all of that,
Yeah.
and it fits beautifully.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
Jeffrey wrote. I'll just put a plug in here. When Jeffrey wrote a white paper for us at CPA.com.
I
It's
remember
on the
that.
CPA.com website. You go look at it.
Yeah.
It's called Harnessing the Power,
Yeah.
and he talks about that very thing.
Yeah.
How the profession moves through the cycle of adoption. But the thing you have to remember is, just when you just adopt the latest thing, there's always something else coming.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be,
Yeah.
but I certainly didn't think, 15 years ago or so, that we would be doing video podcasts, and that I would look and see that there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. And the market it's become glutted in a sense. But going back to something you said earlier is, for firm owners, it's, if I can just achieve that next cycle or put in that next new software, you're saying, no, there's going to be then another thing. So it really sounds like there's not an end point we're getting to as firm owners, as a profession. What we can do is start to enjoy the journey, right, through the ups and downs of an innovative, changing market that's, of course, always going to be technology-based and cloud-based. Now we know those are going to be permanent ways we're going to operate. And so I think it's changing even the mindset of that firm entrepreneur to go, just sit back and enjoy some of the ups and downs you're going to go through, because you can't predict the future, but maybe you can enjoy figuring out what you're trying to, work through now, I guess.
As you move from, we talked about compliant clients to clients that I like.
Yeah.
That's the track that you need to think about, as opposed to, whether or not going to solve all my technology problems,
right?
And have that, because it's always going to change. So, now as we move, and you think about the profession, what we got to get the firms to think about is number one, a pure subscription model.
Nice.
And and number two, pure true niching. When I first started practicing, Jason, we had a niche. We served all clients, only clients that had the same first three digits of a zip code. Where we have
you were forced to a locality, to a zip code. That's right. You niched.
And and then you went through. You had people say, "Well, I'm in a construction sector."
Yep.
Well, is that somebody who remodels houses, or is it Peter Keywood built the Aswan Dam?
Right. Right. Which one?
Same. So Jeffrey says in that paper, your niche has to be big enough to matter and small enough to control.
Nice.
So you look around the country and you see people building really strong niches, and the niche is, I know a guy that does only McDonald's franchisees.
Yep.
I know a guy who does only large animal veterinary clinics.
Yeah, that's different.
I know a woman who does only Hallmark card shops. Now these people are not particularly great accountants, I don't think. Yeah. They would probably say the same thing. Yeah. I mean, their debit's the same as your debit. They're not.
That's right.
But their expertise is, and you're dealing with with creative people.
That's right.
That's a very different thing. They come to you because you understand, what the business of being a creative person in trying to sell creative services or creative products. They don't give a damn about debits and credits.
No, they don't understand them.
Right. You get somebody who does only, only pediatric dentistry. And,
Yeah.
and
Man.
they know every piece of equipment that goes into an operatory. They
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
all of the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they do go maybe to CPA shows, but more importantly, they go to the dental shows
Yeah.
or the
And that,
veterinary shows.
yeah. And that's the change in niching down so tightly is you get so embedded in that niche. So for our firm, we've been doing that creative digital marketing agencies for so long. We get to have about 30 clients, for our team of 13 to really go deep into their lives. And as we like to tell people, niching, you can't go too deep in a niche. Now you can go too fast, right? Some firms try to transition from a generalist to a niching strategy, and they just lop off big sections of their cash flow, sometimes in the process of becoming niched. But it is a slow ride down into the depths of niching. But man, you start to know what you're talking about, and you know it more than even those creative agencies you serve, because you see the
Right.
patterns of many agencies. They've just got theirs they're bumping through, and you get to
Yep.
really offer really life-changing stuff for them in their life.
And you understand the niches come from new firms, new
Mm,
companies being formed, not necessarily existing companies. Existing companies probably have a relationship, and they're not going to, you have to really mess up to lose a client in this
yeah.
business. They're pretty much annuity clients.
Mm,
But new clients, I mean, if I just started a Subway, if I just opened a Subway franchise shop, because Lord knows we need another one. And I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm just
yeah.
starting. I'm going to open Google and I'm going to type in Subway sandwich accountant, and I'm going to find somebody. I
Mm,
don't care if he's down the street. I don't care if he
right.
knows my banker. I don't
Right.
care anything. But
Right.
I just found this woman that that's all she does. And I talked to her, and she immediately jumps over all the debits and credits and crap and
Yep.
starts talking to me about
I love
you
it.
know uh, sandwich meat inventory or
I
whatever
love it. I love it.
you know.
And that's the
And
beauty of
hopefully
an advisor. Yeah.
yeah,
And you can really put a price to that. You can put a price to that knowledge because you know things and you know how to speak to people, in that profession to help them get to the things that actually matter. Um,
right, right.
so Greg, let me ask you this. So we're kind of talking about the profession and the changes in the profession and things like that. I think it was probably a decade ago. I'm like, the baby boomers are going to all retire soon, y'all, and the Gen Xers are going to be able to buy their firms and grow. And that's going to be great. And it still hasn't happened yet. So, and acquisitions are a growth strategy. Is that going to happen? Like, when are the baby boomers going to finally retire, man? Tell
Well,
me, Greg.
I listen to lots of it, especially younger firms, and I'm saying, under 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And they seem to spend a lot of time trying, figuring out how they're going to grow that top line. And I
Hmm.
keep looking at it, I don't care about the top line. Let's look at the bottom line.
Yeah.
How much are you guys, how much taking out of this? And are you looking for a lifestyle business?
Yeah.
Or are you looking for something that you can build and
Matters.
sell and go
Yeah.
off and live on a sailboat? So that would be a very different answer.
Yeah.
But go back to the Great Recession. '08, '09,
Yep.
everything fell apart. At that point, we were looking at the profession, saying, "Wow, you've got this huge percentage of the profession at the CPA level, especially,
Hmm.
this huge percentage of the profession that's going to retire in the next 15 years. Well, then the recession came along and that 15 became 25 because
Yeah,
nobody
for
had the
sure.
money to retire.
Yeah.
And we had that. So that's one problem. Another problem is that people my age or younger, late 50s, early 60s,
Hmm.
they're looking around to sell their firm to someone, and you go back and look, and it's about that time, 20 plus years, 25 years ago, when we introduced the 150-hour rule,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we didn't create very many accountants for a
Right.
while. It dipped way down,
Ah, yeah.
and those are the people, if you look at the timeline, those are the people
Huh.
that should be here right now with enough experience and money to buy a firm, but we didn't build them. We didn't
Ah,
create those people, so they don't exist.
Oh, wow.
And I'm talking in very general terms.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so certainly some.
Yeah.
But that was one of the problems. And I think then another, to me, is a really interesting thing that happened, Jason, with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We've listened, the old guys, I'll include myself there, the old guys, we've listened to you, the young guys,
Yeah.
say, I want to work remotely. I want to be able to, to go to my kid's soccer game and then go home and, and log on and work from 7 till 9:30.
Yeah.
And I want to work on a Sunday afternoon if I want, and I want to take Tuesday morning off and give me that flexibility. And we said, no, you can't do that.
Right.
That won't work. Our clients won't accept it. Our software won't support it. It's not, and then all of a sudden the pandemic came and they all figured out in 72 hours how to do all those things that
you
were
had
impossible.
Yeah.
And all of it. So now, listen to this. Everybody went home to work.
Mm.
The old guys, my age, went home and they went, God, this is sweet. I can work with no pants on.
They liked it.
And my commute is 90 seconds to my home office. And it's great. I love this. This is incredible. God, I wish somebody had told me about this. And so they now all of a sudden love it.
Mm.
The young guys, they all went home. The young people went home to work. And guess what? They got school-age kids.
Right. They're being harassed all day.
Isn't so much fun for them. So now they're saying, I want to go back to the office. And the other guys are going, well, I kind of like this being at home. So you get a whole paradigm shift. And that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. So, and we've got some time to figure that out, right? And so that's going to take some time, right, to work itself out in our market. Because even now we're seeing patterns and we're seeing articles written about employees of firms are really just, they're like, you know what? I've been thinking about my life during the pandemic and life's too short, and they're popping out of their careers. They're now leaving. And so right now what we're seeing, and we get to see these patterns in our Thriveal firms. We get to hear their voices and what they're going through, and they are losing people. They can't find people, and it is across the board. Everybody's dealing with it, and it is such a massive change. And when they do find people, the prices of those new team members are higher than others. And so all these patterns our Thriveal firms are dealing with is speaking to what this pandemic has brought about. And it seems like it's just not settled down yet. We're going to take a couple years to figure out what is this market we're working in now, I think.
Well, we've talked for years, Jason, about culture. I know you talk to your firm owners about building a culture. And that culture is pretty much, I believe, built around the water cooler. It's built around walking down the hall and seeing somebody sticking their head in their cube or their office and saying, hey, how was your kid's baseball game last week? Or you've got that kind of connectivity. And so you think about my job and I go, a job's a job, an accounting job's an accounting job, but I'm going to miss my friends.
Yeah.
Well, now,
for
but
sure.
You've been working at home. You don't have your friends anyway.
That's right.
Your work friends.
Right.
You talk to them for 30 seconds before a Zoom call gets started.
Yeah.
But there's no connectivity, and you've got the whole gig economy coming along. Lots of people saying, I'm going to work for myself. I can do what I want, and I think that's going to be a big deal. Yeah. But we're always going to need. The real small firms are going to survive beautifully because they can serve real small clients beautifully.
Yeah.
And they can be deeply ingrained. The very large, we're always going to need, a PwC to, somebody's got to audit Boeing.
That's right.
That's not going to be you, no matter how good you are.
No.
So, the very big firms, the ones in the middle are the ones that I kind of worry about. What happens to those? There's more small firms and fewer what I'm going to call mid-sized firms, 25 and above.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I guess we're gonna wait to see. And I don't see any patterns that are definitive as to what we're going to see. But I know we're kind of running out of time here. So, but there's just a couple more things I want to ask you. So, you like I think you don't like it when people call this an industry. You make a correction. This is a profession we're in. And
Right.
why is that a big deal to you to really label what we do correctly?
Well, to me, Jason, it is a mindset. Profession
Mm,
is self-regulating. We have standards. And that's
yeah,
not to say that industries don't have standards, but they don't have the same level of self-regulating ethical standards.
ethical.
They
Yeah,
don't have the
hmm
same level of required training and required testing and things. So I always go out of my way to go, in the vendor world, for example, and they'll talk about, well, I have a client doing this or a client doing this. And no, you don't have a client, you have a customer.
yeah,
You
yeah.
are an industry, and the industry serves the profession. The
No,
profession has clients. Our
no,
clients aren't customers. So, everybody that's in business wants to do best for their customer. But to me, when you have a client, you have a different relationship and a higher moral, ethical responsibility that transcends that of being in quote just in business.
yeah, man, that's nice. All right, Greg, I got one last question, and just having your thoughts and wisdom on this show I just can't thank you enough. What it means to me to have you be our first guest 10 years ago when you had led the way for us to even start a podcast, and just to have your thoughts and idea. You've done it all: consultant, tech, run firms, partners, bought, sell. I mean, just everything. Do you think our profession is innovative? How would you define innovative? Is it becoming that? Was it? What do you think about that?
Oh, is our profession innovative? Absolutely yes. Oh, wait a minute. Absolutely no.
Okay,
Well,
for sure
we,
not.
right. We are not. Again, I said again, we are not a monolith. We don't all move together. There
Mm.
are a lot of people and a lot of firms, Jason, that think that, for example, you are way out in left field. You're way out doing all sorts of. There are a whole bunch of other people that think you're an old fuddy diddy. You know,
That's right. Yeah.
there's room for everyone,
Mm.
but there are some people, the people who refuse to change and refuse to adapt are going to have a really, really, really hard time. If you think change is hard, you know, when all of a sudden you look around and there's no one left other than you
Yeah.
saying, I mean, I watch firms, people saying to me, I'll never move to the cloud. I'm going to use premise-based software
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
There hasn't been a premise-based software product developed and released in the accounting space in a dozen years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, eventually, the same thing when we went from DOS to Windows.
Yeah.
And people, same thing when we went for each one of those changes that you
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
And all of the profession hanging on, saying, "There's no way I'll move I'll never have a computer." I had one of my partners when we talked about bringing then microcomputers, we had PCs,
Right.
microcomputers into the office, shove the old mini computer out of the door and bring in microcomputers. One of my partners said to me at a partners retreat, he did this. He went, "These fingers have been to graduate school. They will never touch a keyboard."
Wow. Wow. And you don't get to make those choices a lot of times for your profession. It makes those choices for you.
Yeah, yep,
And,
exactly. And
and
and eventually, it happens. It happens very, very slowly. We talked about trying to lead the profession to launch websites.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I to a firm, they'd say, we don't need a website. None of our clients want a website. I went, someday, soon, next week, next month, next year, soon, a new client's going to come in and they're going to sit down and talk to you about your services and things. and they're going to say, "Well, I'm impressed. I'm ready to go here. So, what's your website? I'll just go there and fill out all the stuff and get my account set up." And you're going to go, "I don't have a website." Well, it's just kind of like and I'd say to the same person, if you went into a bank and established a new bank account, and then said to them, "Oh, so how do I log on to do my online banking?" And they said, "We don't have online banking." You say, "What, are you crazy?"
Yeah.
And
You have to.
It doesn't change all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's why Jeffrey has the innovators, the early adopters, the majority, the late majority, the laggards.
Yeah.
And when you first do something, the very first person, it's costly. The second level, when they start coming in, they have a competitive advantage.
Yes.
When you had everything in the cloud, you had a competitive advantage. You could say to the client world, "Look at me. We have everything in the cloud." Now, all of a sudden, you no longer have a competitive advantage.
No.
The person who doesn't have everything in the cloud is at a competitive disadvantage. But the cloud, that's table stakes.
Yeah,
so
that's
what?
right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Tell me something I care about.
Yeah, that's wild. And I remember when we went virtual 8 years ago, July 1st, 8 years ago, we closed, turned in our lease, and it was a competitive advantage. We could now serve anybody in the United States or in the world. And that allowed us to attract very particular clients that wanted to serve a firm focused on their niche. And now that's how firms start. They just start in their bedroom and they're fully digital. And so now you got to move to the new thing. So I guess maybe what you're saying, innovation is really a sense of holding your hands open to some new thing. You can't staunchly say you will or won't do something as you move forward. If you stay in your profession and career for a long time, you're going to have to hold your hands open and go, I'm going to have to roll with the innovation of what I see this market doing and what my clients want me to do too.
Right. And those things become, there's lots of new quasi accounting firms, tech firm things that can't quite figure out what they are.
Yeah.
And they come and go, and they add value, I think, to the overall scheme of things because they help the world understand, and they've moved the goalpost from compliance, get that compiled financial statement out the door to way up advisory, and keep pushing advisory farther and farther, and that's good for us as a profession, and it's good for the clients who are receiving it. I mean, I never had, and I doubt that you ever had, a client walk in the door that didn't say, I want a partner. Not a legal partner, but I want you to hold my hand. I want you to walk through. I want to talk to you about all aspects of my business, not just what kind of bank account to have.
Right.
I want to talk about all of this stuff.
Everything.
And we were never able to do that. Now all of a sudden we have the tools to do it.
Yeah. And
you've got a whole bunch of new businesses starting that expect that as table stakes.
Yeah.
So if you're not offering it, eventually you're going to get hungry.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Greg, thank you so much for being on the Thrivecast as we go into this 11th season, our 11th year. I mean, you were the perfect guest, so thank you for letting us twist your arm and make you put pants on. I guess I had to make you put pants on this morning, so thank you for doing that. That's great. So
I'll spare you proving it. Jason, congratulations on
thank you.
Persevering through a decade. You've built a good audience, and you're providing a good service to the profession. So keep fighting the good fight. I enjoyed our visit.
Yeah, well, we will. And of course, Greg, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. So thank you for all you did that you probably were just playing around with podcasting or tech or whatever it was you were playing around with at the time. And hey, man, it took for a lot of people, and you led the way. So we really are thankful for you. We appreciate you, Greg.
Thanks so much, Jason.
All right, take care. We'll see you. Bye-bye.